Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here, and today I want to go over the chart of Cardi B, the musician. And I got to make a disclaimer, as always. I don't, I don't particularly like Cardi B's music, but that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because she is you know, a hit musician, star, celebrity, and that's always interesting. So it's interesting to look at her chart and see why she's successful and what she's all about. So yeah, let's look at that. Okay, Cardi B, October 11th, 92. She's pretty young. She's only 30 years old, which is kind of impressive to be so. I guess not. I guess a lot of people become successful in their 20s. Anyway, um, so she's got an interesting chart, as you can just tell by looking at it. This big T square, and then a lot of squares here, and um, her sun's in Libra, conjunct part of fortune and the descendant. Uh, that's a difficult position. Sun in general, sun on the descendant is not so good. It's because sun's the ego, and in relationship, they need relationship in order um, to feel like themselves, in order for their ego to function properly. But at the same time, the sun sort of blinds everything that's next to it. So in relationships, they can become very egotistical, and also they can attract very egotistical partners. It can go either way. Also Libra, the sun is debilitated. It's obviously exalted in Aries. And so, um, yeah, with Cardi B, I mean, I don't really know much about her, but I know, like, I know a little bit. I watched a couple of her videos and read her Wikipedia. And she's obviously not the type of Libra who's a pushover. She's quite aggressive, although I don't know her in person, but she's going to be more on the vulgar side of things, kind of like Eminem. And it's really interesting to see that play out. You get these Sun and Libras, and then they're just like really kind of obnoxiously vulgar and aggressive. And it's not what you'd think of with Libra, but there are those Sun and Libras who tend to be a little more like pushover and yes, 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 everything, and just you can feels like you can walk all over them, but it doesn't feel genuine either. So she's more of the aggressive, vulgar type of Sun in Libra, very conjunct the descendant. But Sun in the seventh house is not bad for movie stars or pop stars or stars in general, because the seventh house does relate to the masses, the public, so they can get on stage and they can shine, and that's quite good, from that perspective. And Libra also will help with that, because Libra likes a lot of glamour and luxury. It is ruled by Venus, so it can handle all that. I mean, that's typically a Leo type thing, being on stage, but it, Libra does quite well with the attention and the glamorous, shiny aspects of all that. So that's all right. Um, a lot of stars have Sun in the seventh house. Her moon, it's full moon. It's almost exactly opposite the sun. It's in Aries. It's quite aggressive moon. Ascendant in Aries. It's angular. It's full. It's conjunct Eris here. I left that here because it's conjunct the ascendant. So it's pretty much, I think, the same ascendant as Rihanna. And if I recall correctly, Rihanna also has her moon in Aries. Interesting. Um, but yeah, moon in the first house, it's you know, that's gonna help her ascendant a lot. It does make a moon's a feminine planet, so for women, it creates helps with their femininity, their beauty. Um, Moon in the first house is yeah, it's just nice. It's I think for adds to creativity, um, the the caring, like I said, the feminine aspects. It helps out with. Um, Ascendant ruler Mars is in Cancer in the fourth house, debilitated in because it's exalted in Capricorn, debilitated in Cancer. But it is square the ascendant and Earth and the moon, which it rules. So there is a connection there. So that actually helps. Even though it's a square, it's still gonna that aspect is still gonna help the ascendant and the moon, because it's the ruler. So that part's good for the ascendants and the moon and Eris, but not so good for Mars being. I mean, angular is still good, but in Cancer, not so good. So, and in the fourth house, you don't really want Mars because that's the home. And Mars in the fourth house is kind of like too bossy at home, like too aggressive. Like if you live with her, she's gonna be a boss and not a very nice boss. I don't want to say anything mean, but Mars in Cancer has no dignity, so not very dignified. So one might say potentially nasty at home. Yeah. Mars is also ruling eighth house, so she's bringing eighth house elements into her home, and this is also her early life. And if you read up about her, there's definitely those eighth house elements in her youth, in her growing up. She was a stripper, she was a gang member, and she had sexual abuse. Um, yeah, so not so good. Uh, Not a glamorous upbringing, not a dignified, glamorous upbringing. And we can see some of these elements here, especially with Venus and Pluto in Scorpio in the eighth house. Pluto does rule Scorpio, so that helps Venus because Venus is not in good dignity here. There's a lot of planets not in good dignity. Sort of really funny that I just did Eminem. He's also a rapper. She's a rapper. So she kind of crossed genres. She does rap and singing and which is interesting. I'll give her that. Like her music is interesting. I can see why she's like, you know, super successful. Because she bridges, genres and does it really well. She's multiracial, so she's bringing like Latino, Caribbean, Black influences together. So that's kind of interesting as well. Um, but this is interesting as well because, yeah, Venus obviously does not do well in Scorpio or the eighth house. Venus is her femininity. Uh, Pluto and Scorpio, Venus and Scorpio alone can represent some sort of sexual abuse, especially for a woman, but especially with Pluto here. But what else? Venus is ruling the second house. It's ruling the seventh house and the second house. So, like, let's take one at a time. Seventh house in the eighth house means her partners are going to bed with her. Like literally, like that's what that means. Like she's meeting people and they're going to bed. She's having sex with people that she like with partners. Like she meets someone, they want to go to bed with her, or she wants to go to bed with, and that happened. Like she talked about that. What it also means is that her resources are going towards shared resources. So she's bringing people to bed and she's sharing resources. In other words, this can go one of two ways. I don't want to malign her because I'm just trying to be neutral. But I did read that she would take men to bed, sleep with them, and then rob them. That's literally what's going on here, especially because Venus is not in good dignity here. It's helped by Pluto and Scorpio in a sense, because Pluto is in good dignity here, but Pluto and Scorpio is still very intense, and you're not going to get away from the scorpionic factor that it's very heavy, and Pluto can be negative, so can Scorpio. Obviously, they deal with like sex and death and power and control and other people's resources and potentially criminality. Absolutely. But on the other hand, this could indicate that she helps the poor, right? Because her resources is going into other shared resources. So there's two ways that can go, right? One is she's taking from people, the other way she's giving back to people in need. And I'm not saying that, so she's still young. We could see, as she gets older, we could see another side to Cardi B. People change dramatically as they get older. They're really like Maya Angelou. Is it Maya Angelou? I think so. She was, and I hope I'm getting this right, but she had a very shady past, and she changed it around and became very positive. I don't know that, I don't want to say anything that's not true, but a very dark, shady past that she was able to turn around and become very positive. It's totally possible, right? I don't want to, judge Cardi B negatively, because people do bad things and then they change and do good things a lot of times. Not always, but this heavy Scorpio influence obviously is influencing her music. Her Mercury is also in Scorpio. It's in the 7th house, but it's close enough to the 8th house cusp, but it's also influencing the 8th house. It's bringing in 6th house influence and 3rd house. So communication, we're saying here, also the South Node is in the 3rd house. So like 3rd house, very much for, rap music, obviously, definitely 2nd house because the voice, but also 3rd house strongly. And then 6th house is conflict, competition, health, various things. But 6th house and the 8th house is not bad. 6th house and the 7th house is not good. It means bringing conflict and health issues and competition into relationships. But if we look at it as sixth lord in the 8th house, then that's okay, because malefic lords and malefic houses do okay together because they have similar energies. It shows like a conflict that'll turn positive, right? So that's okay here. It means that if you listen to her music, it is there's a lot of that Scorpio 8th house influence, that the aggression, the violence, the language, the heaviness, the sexuality. It's just very deep and scorpionic, and it very much fits her. There's a market for that. There's a market for that deep, that heavy scorpionic negativity, especially in hip hop, but not limited to hip hop. I don't want to say only hip hop. Like it could be, heavy metal, rock, even country music has a lot of that. It can be very negative and dark. They has a nice melodic tone to it, but it can be very negative as well. Anyway, perhaps not as negative, but anyway, I'm not comparing. Hip hop definitely seems to make have a market for that sexuality and heaviness and aggression. Yeah. So her MC is in Capricorn, and then she's got the conjunction of Neptune and Uranus, early 90s, when the cultural shift happened with this conjunction, this when grunge came on the scene. So that's powerful for her MC, and her MC Lord Saturn is in good dignity in Aquarius, and this is probably her best planet. Saturn in Aquarius in the house of career success, 10th lord in the 11th house is very good, especially in good dignity. So her career is you know, prominent, powerful. It is square to, you know, you got this Mars, Moon, Ascendant, Sun, and then, you know, Uranus and Neptune here. That's a very big square. But one thing is interesting is that Sun is exalted in Aries, and you always got to look at the opposite house of the signs of the planets, because they are making an aspect to that. So like Sun is positively influencing her ascendant because it does well in Aries, it's exalted, and Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So these, even though they're negative here, they are boosting her ascendant and her MC, her 10th house. So that's very good. That's quite strong. Like I said, her south node's in Gemini in the 3rd house. Again, so skills of Gemini, speaking, communication, rapping is very mercurial. And this is going into the 7th, 8th house, 7th, 8th, right? 7th for like relating to others. That's very good for like, yeah, like I said, same thing with the Sun, like being on stage, the masses, relating to others in general. 8th house will be, you know, that much deeper, raw, powerful, you know, ability to communicate. That's a much more intimate and aggressive, heavy quality to it. Mars is still trying these planets, not exactly, but there's it's trying by sign, so it's still adding some dignity to all of them. You know, mostly it's the closest to Venus, so there's that. Yeah. And then we get to the North Node in Sagittarius, which is not active yet because she's still so young. She's only 30 years old, basically. Yeah, 30, I guess. North Node in Sagittarius would activate Jupiter, and Jupiter is at 0 degrees Libra, and that's actually a very interesting point, because the start of the zodiac is at 0 degrees Aries, and this is in the 6th house, and this kind of doesn't fit very well unless I don't know something about her, because Jupiter in Libra, in the 6th house, is very much has to do with what comes to mind most of all is law, because 6th house deals with competition, and a lot of times you see law in the 6th house or the 9th house, sometimes the 7th house, but Jupiter's the lawmaker. Jupiter's the teacher, the guru, the lawmaker, and so there's something that I think is going to happen as she gets a little bit older. She's going to become more interested in 6th house matters, which are competition, but in a Jupiterian way. This is not very aggressive. I mean, obviously, Mercury's ruling her 6th house cusp, Lord, and it's in Scorpio, so that is very aggressive. But Jupiter here in Libra is very fair and balanced, because Jupiter is very generous, and Jupiter in Libra would indicate a much more, you know, generous equality, you know, an attempt to bring some equality, generosity, and largesse, you know, big heartedness, big fairness, equality, in a competitive way. So, or to something like health matters, health issues. But I wonder, she's not there yet, but I wonder if she'll become interested in something very different as she gets a little bit older. And I wonder if it will bring out her better quality in her, one that wants to help other people. because Jupiter's that great benefic. It's very generous and wants to do good. You know, North Node in Sagittarius, it's going to activate that. It's going to activate, you know, her adventurous side. I mean, she might be very adventurous anyway, but ninth house is very philosophical, religious, and lucky, and higher studies. Maybe she'll want to study. Maybe she'll want to go back to school. Don't know. But I also want to look at her Draconic chart, which is, now this is a new technique that I'm just learning, but it is very fascinating because what the Draconic chart represents is it's the North Node of the moon set to 0 degrees Aries, which is right here. And then it's superimposed on the natal chart because this is the North Node of the moon. So the Draconic chart represents almost like an aspect of the moon, like the inner feeling, the inner quality, or the past. It can represent the past, what we did, sort of like karmic. I forget how this woman described it, but it's sort of like it's qualities of the moon. So like it's almost like an internal quality that we feel that we don't express externally. But you can see a lot by this Draconic chart. And so we can see that her MC and Neptune and Uranus, sorry, I got backwards. Uranus and Neptune are right on her ascendant and first house. So that shows that her career is very important to her. Right? And Uranus is conjunct her moon. So she's actually very independent. Right? Very independent, very creative, and very career oriented. And what else? Her ascendant and moon are in Cancer in the 4th house. So, and this becomes even more active as a person gets older because it relies on the North Node, and the North Node becomes active in the 2nd half of life. So this is almost like something that we grow into. Her moon's in Cancer in the 4th house, which makes me think that she's going to become much more of a caring, motherly homebody as she gets older. And perhaps she'll deal in real estate, or perhaps she'll just love being at home. She could move into real estate. She could buy, you know, some physical something or other with the money that she makes. Like 4th house can also be like, you know, any sort of business that involves, you know, hard physical real estate, right? Like a storefront or a restaurant or anything like that. But it could just be that she'll buy a big house and love being at home and love being a mom. If I recall, I'm not sure if she has a child, but she might. I don't remember. What else is interesting is that this Jupiter is conjunct the South Node and it will be if it's conjunct 0 degrees Libra, because South Node will always be 0 degrees Libra in the Draconic chart. But what this indicates is that, you know, as her North Node activates, because this is the North Node chart, essentially superimposed on the natal chart, that she's going to have South Node conjunct Jupiter is a conjunction that indicates somebody who has innate natal wisdom and teaching ability. Like I have that in the 7th house, and that's why I can talk about astrology. It helps me talk about astrology a lot. Helps me a lot. It's like an innate wisdom, right? And with this being in Libra and then 6th house, there's something in it that's going to wake up for her. That's very Jupiterian and very Libra, you know, relationships, wisdom, teaching, 6th house. So there's something here that's gonna wake up for her, and it's gonna feel very natural. as she gets older. 42 is when the North Node really wakes up, but it's a gradual process. She's going to experience this in the next decade, gradually, year by year, more and more. If we look in the 7th house, we have Mars basically conjunct the Sun. Now, Mars conjunct the Sun is generally good because it activates the Sun, right? The Sun is exalted in Aries. But Mars in Libra also is not good because now it's the ascendant lord. It's actually, well, it's the MC lord in her Draconic chart, but it is her natal ascendant lord. And so it's bringing in qualities, this negative qualities towards others, right? And they're here, so like, if it's the ascendant lord in the 7th house, that shows somebody who's taking advantage of other people because it's not in good dignity. So Mars is not in good dignity, it's in detriment, and it's towards other people. So that can mean one of two things. Either she's taking advantage of people or she's helping weak people. So like I said, it can go either way. And I'm not trying to be like negative on her because I know other people who have this, and it can be a mixed bag. It can go both ways. They can be, in one part of their life, take advantage of other people. Then as they mature, they decide to become a good person, and then they start helping people. There's always the potential that if they don't like someone, they can take advantage of them again, even while they're mostly helping people who are weaker than them, right? So again, she had a rough childhood. She was a gang member. Maybe she still is. I don't know, but she did admit to taking advantage of people. And we see that also in the 8th house. Chiron is also here in the 8th house in Scorpio. It's wide. It's not really conjunct Pluto or Venus, but again, that can show some difficulty around sexual issues. And it just adds to the potential sexual abuse that she might have experienced. Her Draconic Jupiter is conjunct her MC. So again, more indication of a very strong career. Jupiter is a great benefic. It expands everything that it touches. And let's see what house is it. It's 9th house, ruling 9th house, and I guess 12th house. So creative. It's ruling the 12th house, which is the creative house, one of the creative houses. And the 9th house, which is generally a lucky house. House of, well, lots of things, but travel and adventure and higher learning and religion and philosophy. That doesn't seem to apply so much, but just in general, it's a house of good fortune. Sun is in the 10th house here in Capricorn. That's very strong for the sun, very good position. And Mercury is here conjuncting Saturn, which again, Saturn is the MC Lord. So Mercury conjunct the MC Lord, career in communication. And then more planets in the 11th house, Venus and Pluto. So you can see how this is just kind of adding up a lot to what we're already seeing. We're just seeing a bit more. We're seeing a bit more reinforcement of the same themes plus a few extra themes. This Jupiter is really, we know this Jupiter is going to come alive more and more, and the 4th house is going to come alive more and more. And I suspect that she's going to become more caring, motherly, and I think Cardi B is really going to turn a leaf and become a good person as she gets older. That's my prediction, and I can't wait to see it. I mean, I think she's going to go through a transformation, especially at age 42, but gradually. Yeah, that's my prediction. And she's going to become a great benefactor, help people and help people who are weaker than her, donate money to people who are in need, and all that, and redeem her negative karma. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to be looking at this Draconic chart overlay with all my readings because I think it's really interesting, and I think it really does show a lot about the nature of the inner person that we don't see as much, because the moon represents our inner side. We don't really show our moon as much. It's our feelings, it's our heart, it's the inner quality, and it also represents the past and our it has karmic influences as well, and it relates to the nodes. So I mean, I've looked at my own chart and it's just uncanny, like how much it can really show on a deeper level. Uh, what's really going on beneath the surface of the person, their deeper motivations. So yeah, that's it for now. So yeah, Cardi B, despite the negativity, I think she'll do good in the long run. So anyway, if you found this interesting, I hope you did. And if you want to book a reading, go to my website, macroastrology.com, or go just email me directly at macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.